Hey, what's going on, guys? YugiRyan here, and today I'm going to be profiling my Ultimate Baseball Kid deck for you guys. This deck has multiple capabilities. It can be an OTK deck if you want it to. It can just flood or swarm the field, as most people call it. This deck is pretty good. I tried it out, and I won 6 out of 7 or 8 matches. One of the matches I lost because, well, Burning Abyss, and that's probably one of the only decks that this deck can't handle or get around. This deck is still a rough scratch of what it might be in the future. I'm still working on improving it. If you guys have any suggestions for this deck, make sure to leave it in the comments so that I can improve this deck, and I might make a second video on this deck showing the improved version. So let's get right into it. First of all, we have 3 copies of Ultimate Baseball Kid. This is going to be the core monster, the base monster, the boss monster of your deck. For every other fire monster on the field, Ultimate Baseball Kid gains 1000 attack. So it's a very good card. It can gain attack very quickly once you get your monsters rolling in on the field. Also has a nice little side effect. I don't really use it much, but you can. You can send one other face-up fire monster you control to the graveyard to inflict 500 damage to your opponent. So it's just an easy way to get rid of a monster that you might not want anymore once you've already used it or used up its effect, etc. Next, we have 1 copy of Blaster, Dragon Ruler of Infernos. Can't go wrong with this card. It's basically a staple in almost every fire deck. It's very good. It can be a boss monster if you want it to. It can be summoned by other cards in this deck as well, instead of just using its primary effect to special summon it. So it can be an easy boss monster to get out. And then we have 2 copies of Little Chimera. Its effect is very nice. All fire monsters on the field gain 500 attack. Also has another effect, which is all water monsters on the field lose 400 attack. So just a little side effect that's nice to have in certain situations. It's not really a big game changer. I use it for its first effect, but because it's so little in attack and defense, I only run 2 copies of it. And then we have Red Sparrow Summoner. Basically, this is going to be a card that searches out your baseball kid and special summons him. Whenever she's destroyed by battle, by your opponent's card, you can special summon a Ultimate Baseball Kid onto your side of the field in attack position. So unfortunately, you can't just suicide summon or suicide grave yourself, whatever it's called, which basically means attacking your opponent even though you know that you're about to get destroyed to activate your own effect. But it's still a very good card. I only run 2 copies of it because of what I just mentioned, but still very good for search power. We have 3 copies of Solar Flare Dragon. This card is also a staple in most fire decks or pyro decks. While you control another pyro-type monster, this card cannot be attacked, which is nice. And also, during each of your end phases, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent, so a nice little burn effect right there. And it has a decent attack of 1500. And finally, we have UFO Turtle. This card is basically a giant rat for fire-type monsters. You can suicide summon with this card or suicide grave to activate its effect, which is very nice. Onto the spells. We have 2 copies of Circle of Fire Kings. This card is very good. You can target 1 fire monster on the field and 1 in your graveyard. You can tribute the 1 on the field and then special summon the 1 in the graveyard, which will follow up to my next card, which is Foolish Burial. So how I combo these 2 cards is that I'll use Foolish Burial and I'll destroy Blaster. And then I'll activate Circle of Fire Kings with, let's say, Little Chimera, and then tribute Little Chimera and special summon Blaster. So, very nice combo to have. It easily special summons boss monsters from the deck onto the field. A fast way to get cards out that are very strong. So, nice combo right there. And then we have 2 copies of Double Summon. I find that we don't have a high monster count, only 14 monsters, but Double Summon does come in handy. let's say you draw 2 cards right off the bat, first turn. You can activate this card and then summon both of them. Very nice card to have. I might tone it down to just 1. I'm still wondering if I should do that or not. Then I have 2 copies of Level Limit Area B. You can change all face-up level 4 or higher monsters to defense position, and this card is continuous, which is very nice, so they can't get out of it. Your monsters won't inflict battle damage to your opponent because they're in defense position if you destroy their monsters, but it's a nice way to get around high attacking monsters that might be threatening to your monsters. Also, we have 2 copies of Molten Destruction. This is just a nice field spell to have. It increases your attack by 500 and you lose 400 defense. So the loss of 400 defense isn't drastic, but it's still a very nice field spell to have. I really like it. Then we have 3 copies of MST, just to get rid of back row that might be threatening, such as a Mirror Force or a D-Prison, etc. We also have 1 copy of Raigeki. I'd rather this card now over Dark Hole. I've been using it a lot, and it's very good in a lot, if not all decks. There are certain decks that need Dark Hole, but I prefer Raigeki for obvious reasons. It doesn't destroy your own monsters. We also have 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army. So if you can't find any UFO Turtle, Red Sparrow Summoner, or even Circle of the Fire Kings, you can use Reinforcement of the Army to add it to your hand. So also, let's say you draw out with a little Chimera. You can also, and you also draw it with a double summon and a Reinforcement of the Army. Activate Reinforcement, get a Ultimate Baseball Kid, activate double summon, summon little Chimera and Baseball Kid. And Baseball Kid has a nice, what would it be, 2000 attack? Yeah, 2000 attack. So that's a nice combo as well. And then we have 3 copies of Swords of Revealing Light. For obvious reasons, you want to protect your monsters while you're trying to get them out. And just a very nice stall card. We have 2 copies of Backfire. Every time a fire monster is destroyed, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent. And they can be stacked, so that's why I run 2 copies. So let's say you have UFO Turtle set or a Red Sparrow Summoner set face down on your side of the field, and your opponent destroys it. You can activate their effects, and your opponent will take 500 or 1000 damage, depending on how many of these you have face up. So just a nice burn card once again. I find fire is very nice with their burn support cards. It helps the deck a lot because this deck does need that extra bit of damage. It needs all it can get, so it's a very nice burn card. Then we have 1 copy of D-Prison, just to prevent monsters from attacking. 3 copies of DNA Transplant. This is a very, very nice card in the deck. Because of Ultimate Baseball Kid's effect, it says any fire-type monster on the field, and not that you control. So you can exploit this effect with DNA Transplant, which basically means once you activate DNA Transplant, you call out fire, and then all your opponent's type monsters are going to be fire, which is also going to boost your Ultimate Baseball Kid's attack by 1000 for every monster they control as well. So, very overpowered card in this deck. I run 3 copies of it because it's a must-have. Finally, we have 2 copies of Gravity Bind just to stall out your opponent, and 1 copy of Mirror Force. I don't have an extra deck or a side deck. If I had to add an extra deck, I would probably just add some level 4 XYZ, just the staples like Gaga Cowboy or Black Ship of Corn maybe, and maybe 1 or 2 rank 3 XYZs for Ultimate Baseball Kid. So that's about it for my Ultimate Baseball Kid deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed.